1954, you make your first All-Star game. What's that feeling when you walk into that clubhouse, knowing where you came from and that was your dream to make the majors? Now you're in that locker room full of all the stars. Tell me about that day.
Well, that's a great feeling. I was just a young kid, and I made sure that I went around and I got every one of the players there to sign a ball for me. And I got two of them signed. I gave one to my dad. Okay, I tried to get him a baseball every year, and then he saved them. And to be able to talk to them, and be with the great stars, Willie Mays and Spawn and Musial and Williams and all the great hitters and stuff like that. I was in awe, like any young kid would be, but it was a great thrill, and I was so happy that Leo DeRocha thought that much of me.
1961, really strange year for you. You may be the first player ever traded on a team bus on the way to a game. What do you recall about that on the way to a game with the Braves, and then going into that other locker room, meeting your manager, and then being in a lineup with Hank Aaron, Eddie Matthews, and Joe Addick?
Yeah, we took the bus from Chicago to Milwaukee, and when I got off the bus, Casey was standing at the bottom of the steps. He pulled me aside. He says, "We just traded you." He says, "You're going." He says, "You're going to the Milwaukee club." And Glenn Harvey was pitching that night. Okay, and I beat the Cubs that day with a double against Glenn Harvey.
And in that lineup, you kind of thrived. You guys became the first in Major League history to hit home runs in consecutive at-bats. You were the guy who hit the fourth of them. So what was that game like?
Well, it was in Cincinnati, okay, in the seventh inning. And let's see. The pitcher was Maloney, okay, and Matthews came up first, hit the ball out of the ballpark. Hank Aaron came up second, hit the ball out of the ballpark. They changed pitchers. They brought in Marshall Bridges to pitch Joe Adcock. He hit the third one, and I made baseball history by hitting the fourth one. Now, from the time baseball was invented, Mark, in the 1800s, until July 8, 1961, this feat has never been done in Major League history. And from 1961 until today, 2020, it still stands.
Yep.
And I personally don't think it's ever going to be broken. It's been tied, okay? But I'm the first Major Leaguer that has ever done this, and I'm very proud of that record. And like I said, I don't think anybody's ever going to break it.
Awesome. So November 28th, 1961, you're traded with from the Braves and a player to be named later to the Mets.
Right.
What do you recall about that day? How did you find out? You're going to a team that's going to be a brand new team. What was your feeling?
Well, let me tell you the story about that. All right. When I hit the fourth home run, okay, on July 8th, okay. Let's see. I think it was June 8th.
It was June 8th. June 8th.
Yeah,
Yep.
right. And after that, Mikhail called me up to his office. He said, "We want to sign you for next year." And I looked at him. I said, "John, this is June." I said, "I may go bad, and you'll be sorry, and I may go good, and I'll be sorry." I said, "But I'll sign before I go home." Okay. September came, and he called me up to his room again. He says, "We don't want to sign you for next year." And my first words out of my mouth to him was this: "Mr. McHale, before we do anything, what are my intentions from you, for me, for 1962? And out of his mouth came this: "You will be our left fielder." Okay? Now, as I look back at this, okay, and I say, he signed me, he probably had me traded before I even signed. okay? And he got me signed at a figure. I said, you bring out whatever contract you want me to sign and I'll sign it. And that's exactly what I did. And then finally, on November, I'm up hunting. My wife called me at the time and she said, you just got sold to the Mets. You sold to the Mets. And I called McHale, I don't know how many times, he never returned the calls, okay? I saw him in spring training. I just walked by him and I said, thank you very much, okay? And I didn't say anything else more after that. But that's the way I was traded. And to this day, I still feel that he already had signed me. And then I called George Weiss up at the time, and I said, George, I think he had me signed so that you wouldn't have to differ with me. And he said, well, you already signed. I can't do anything about it. I said, yes, you can. He said, no, I can't. And that was it.
So your first Met manager and only Met manager was Casey Stengel. What's your recollection of Casey and how he was with you?
Mark, I always felt this way. There's a gentleman, okay, a great man, knows how to talk to writers, okay, gives them a double talk and stuff like that. But when he talks to baseball players, he's talking like you and I are talking right now, okay? That was a gimmick that he did in regards to the writers. I said to myself, he probably forgot more baseball than I will ever know, okay? He was a great guy. I don't know some of the antics that he pulled because I was in the field all the time, okay? I can remember just one thing that happened, actually two things that happened when I was on the bench and one time I was hitting, okay? Solly Hemus was a coach at third base. We had a man on first and second in the seventh inning, nobody out, and I'm sitting next to Casey, and I says, Case, Hawley's looking for you to give a sign. He says, the opposing team thinks we're going to bunt. He said, we're not going to bunt, though. We're going to fool them. So, and that's the first time I heard him say anything. And then the next time, when I'm up hitting on August 1st, and my happiest pitching for the Phillies, no, Hamilton was pitching, okay? And I hit a ball foul. And they had the signs in left field foul line and right field foul line with a ship, okay, a boat, okay. And if you hit the boat on the fly, you get 5 points. If you hit it on the bounce, you get so many points. You hit it on the ground, you get so many points. At the end of the season, whoever hit it the most times would own a boat at the end of the season, okay. And I hit the ball foul, and I heard a remark from the stands: if you want to go in the Navy, you join the Navy, baby. and I got out of the batter's box and I just laughed a little bit and stuff like that. But that was the day that I hit 2 home runs, okay, and the next day August 2nd, two home runs, and the next day 2 home runs, and then we're playing a doubleheader against the Reds. And the first time up, I hit a ball down the right field line, which I usually don't do, and the ball just went foul at the last minute. And then in the 14th inning of the second game, I hit the ball off of Mo Grabowski and for the winning game, and I could have had 8 home runs in 5 games.
Right, that was a walk-off too, August 4th, 1962. Right, right. Yep.
I'm on KINER'S show, upstairs. And Hutchinson said, everybody should be out of the clubhouse before I get there. And I saw him walking slowly to the center field, where they had the clubhouses, okay. And they tell me that he just tore the clubhouse apart, throwing chairs around and everything like that. But I'll tell you one thing, I played for him in Cincinnati. I had the worst year of my career. I was traded by Joe Brown with a bad thumb. No one would believe me, okay? I'm sitting in the doctor's office, and get this, a gynecologist operated on my thumb. Get that?
They sent you to a gynecologist?
Yeah, he was a team doctor. He gave good players pills for cold so he could get more tickets for his family and stuff like that. So I'm sitting there, and he cut me. And I says, what did you get? He said, little pieces of mice. I said, what do you mean by that? Okay, and he didn't say nothing. A month and a half later, it still bothered me. And I said, I called him up, and he said, don't worry about it. He said, they'll heal. Well, it never did heal. Okay, and I went to spring training with, first of all, I went to Germany with Joe Gradiola, Early Wynn, Nestor Shylock, and a couple other players for a clinic for the Air Force, okay, in Garmisch, Germany. And my roommate was Joe Gradiola, and the phone rings at 7 o'clock in the morning on January 29th. And it says, Frank Thomas? I said, yeah. He says, how do you feel about being traded? I said, who was I traded to? He said, you were traded to Cincinnati for Hook, Haddix, and Burgess. Okay, and there was three other Pirates, Johnny Powers, Ramey Douglas, and the third baseman, okay, Color Boy, okay. And I'm burning like anything. Graduate says, put your hand over the phone. Said, don't burn your bridges behind you, which was good advice, okay, coming from him. But Joe Brown never called me, and I always told him, I said, Joe, if you're ever going to trade me, please let me know first so I know how to handle the media, okay. Well, he never did call me. But Gabe Paul did call me, okay. He says, I'll talk to you when you get home. I said, okay. So when I got home, and I called him, I said, I'm home now. And he said, well, I want you to come to Cincinnati. I want to talk to you. And I went to Cincinnati, and I went in to talk to him. And he says, we want to sign you for next year. I says, Gabe, you're getting damaged goods. Okay, I should have said right then and there, I'm not going to sign. Okay, I'm going back to the Pirates until that my hand is healed. Okay, but I didn't say nothing at that particular time. And I said, and Dave said, we still want to sign you. I said, well, you know what I asked the Pirates for. I said, you think I'm being unfair? He says, no. He says, you had a great year. He says, but if I sign you, you're going to have the same type of year. And my answer to him was, it'll never happen, Gabe. Okay? And that was the extent of my conversation. He signed me. Okay? And I played, and Hutchinson always said, he says, you're my type of ball player, Frank. He says, I know you're hurting. He says, you don't go from 35 home runs to 12 unless there's something radically wrong when you're in the prime of your career. Well, they sent me to the doctor because the Cubs were interested in me at the end of the season. And Dr. Compere, who operated on me, who used to operate here in Pittsburgh, and after I got anesthesia, he says, I think there's going to be a lot of red faces. He says, I don't know how you ever played with a hand like that. I had tumors growing around my nerve, okay, and my thumb, okay? No one believed me, all right? And finally, after the operation, and that's when I got traded to the Braves, and ended up with 27 home runs there, and then I got 34 home runs with the Mets. So if I would have been, and that held me back from my goals. I always had in my hat what I wanted to do in my major league career. I wanted to hit 300, okay, which I barely almost did. I could have hit 300 if I would have not played the last game against the Dodgers, okay, when Andy Ambrose made a shoestring catch on a ball I hit down the left field line. And it took me to 298 in 1952, okay? And I wanted to hit 300 home runs, okay, and I fell short for that, 14, and I had 4 taken away from me, in the rainouts and stuff like that. But and I wanted to drive in 1,000 runs, and I came short of that. Now, if I wouldn't have had the bad hand, I would have reached that plateau and probably went over it. But it just wasn't in the books for me to do.